The start was about in the middle of the day as we went up north in the bay, and it was a beautiful day, turned into a beautiful evening. Breeze out of the south, spinnaker up, going fast. So it was a beautiful race night for us, and everything was going just the way we wanted it to go.
I mean, it was 15 knots of breeze, warm, nice on deck. Nothing in the cards really suggested that the breeze increase that we got over that half an hour, 45 minutes or whatever was supposed to come. When it went from a pleasant 15 knots to a not so pleasant 40 knots, it caught us with our pants down, basically. And that's when things got a little out of control.
We heard a little bit of velocity increase down below, which you can tell the boat is going faster and the wind is picking up. So we had an idea that something was going on. And then we both heard the stomping of the feet, which is basically an all hands on deck signal to come get the sails down and get the boat under control. And at that point, Mark and I both went up topside.
I had all my gear on, but I needed to put my life jacket on. And my life jacket I put on, but I had a hard time buckling it. So I tried 2 or 3 times and it didn't get it buckled, but I just felt like the urgency needed me on deck. And so I scrambled up on deck without it buckled.
The boat was at its limit of control, and I was steering furiously to try to keep the boat underneath the spinnaker, because if you don't, then you wipe out and the boat crashes.
So my position of the boat is aft, either on the helm or helping out in the navigation end of it. And when I went up, I went all the way out to the back of the boat, and as I reached over for the winch, there was a lot of motion on the helm and I was flung over the side.
As soon as I got within a foot of the mast, not very far, only 2 or 3 steps, is when I heard the man overboard call.
2 other crew members who had come on deck saw him go over the side and called man overboard. And frankly, I couldn't believe it.
So when I went in the water, the first priority in my mind was to get my life jacket inflated, which had a cylinder in it, but it was not in the automatic mode. So I had to reach inside my Velcro life jacket, find the lanyard, and pull the lanyard to activate my life jacket. I am quite confident that if I didn't get that inflated, I would have drowned in the first 10 minutes. The second thing I did after I got my life jacket inflated was grab my light and hold it up in the air so they could see that I had gone through that first evolution successfully. And the guys in the boat did see the light.
Basically, the only thoughts going through my head at that point were get to the sail, get to the takedown line, and let's get it in the boat as fast as possible. So as the boat is traveling 18 to 22 knots at this point, you know, it's covering a mile every few minutes. And by the time we had the operation to get the sail down, we had covered probably 2 miles. The breeze had increased significantly, up touching on 50 to 55 knots probably, and the boat heeled over and was pinned on its side. We were held down approximately, a minute to a minute and a half, up to maybe even 2 minutes. It was hard to tell time at the time.
You don't know really how far you've drifted when you're lying on your side, trying to get the boat turned around, going back the other way. It was the classic case of a string of small disasters.
I didn't have a chance to really think about how serious the situation was. I knew, though, that the boat was leaving at 18 knots and the wind was increasing and it was going to be a long time before they were able to come back. And I pulled my gear out and saw what I had in my life jacket, which was a AIS transmitter, a knife, a life jacket, and a whistle. So I started blowing the whistle a little bit and holding the light up, but the light, which was a brand new light with brand new batteries, failed.
I mean, the key thing is we still thought we saw the light. We had 2 people watching the whole time, and so that was the first direction we went. The first light we kind of went towards, we realized after a while was moving, and it wasn't him. And then, well, if not that light, maybe it's that light over there. And no, that's not that light either. So we probably spent, a good 15 minutes chasing lights that were just ghosts.
And we formulated the best search plan was to head back straight where we came from and try and retrace our steps to get back where we were. Once you get into it and you start heading back that way is when you have time and space in your brain for all the thoughts to creep in. And when you start doing the math of, the chances of success, they're very, very small. Keeping positive and focused in that situation is very, very difficult because you just feel a crushing weight of impossibility basically pushing down on you.
I had no illusion that they would be back in the near future. My job was surviving, and that's what I concentrated on. I was worried about going unconscious as the night went on and falling out of my life jacket. I tried several times to buckle that life jacket, but I couldn't get it done. So I had to hold the 2 lobes basically together around with my arms. At that point, I was thinking about family and things like that. I had kept the whistle in my mouth, and I was blowing it on every breath. Every once in a while, water would get into the whistle and muffle it, but almost every breath it would be blowing as hard as it could.
You know, somebody said, I think I hear a whistle. I said, you don't hear a whistle. You can't hear a whistle out here. It's loud, it's windy, it's stuff's flapping and crashing and banging around. Then we started to listen for it by knocking the motor back so we could hear, and then, sure enough, a couple of us began to start to hear it. And then we sort of had a vague idea of where it was, and so we started we'd head that way for a little bit, and then we'd kill the engine, and then we listened some more, and I think that's a whistle. That was finally hope.
I saw the light off in the distance, and I started blowing that whistle as hard as I could.
So as we approached the area that we were really homing in on Mark's whistle, another boat was coming up, and they actually were able to put a spotlight on Mark. And when he was illuminated, then we really knew that we were going to get him back at that point.
When the two boats were converging, Aftershock and Meridian, I kept blowing the whistle because that's all I could do. With all the gear on, boots and foul weather gear, there was no swimming even a few yards.
It's tricky to pull a boat alongside somebody in the water, but if you treat it as if you were sailing up to that person, that's usually the best way. And so we basically sailed up to a mooring, effectively, and Mark was the mooring.
But once I was able to get my hands on Mark physically, it was an overwhelming relief. It was like a flood that just washed over. And the first thing to do was get him on the boat and get him warmed up once we had him. But the actual moment we got him onto the boat was probably the biggest relief I've ever felt in my life.
I was told once I got on board, and I was lying flat on my face on the floor, that I said, that was close, that was close. And it was very close.
Without a life jacket, he would not have lived. Without the whistle and without the searchlights, we would not have pulled it off.
There was no chance we would have seen him without the whistle and lights in those conditions. It was pitch black.
I have two whistles. My new life jacket has the original whistle that saved my life, and I have another whistle.
This past summer, we went back and did the race again. So we got back on our horse. And it was a miserable race, too. But we went and did it, and so we crossed that one. But no, I think that if anything, it strengthened the bond on our team and definitely in our trust in each other.